Hello and welcome to the Purpose Matrix. My name is Phil Moeller, and today I want to talk about entrepreneurship because entrepreneurship is hard. And the question I want to ask you is entrepreneurship for you, whether you're thinking about it, whether you're into it a couple years, or whether you've been in it for a very long time. It's still an important question to think about and to understand. And I'm going to talk about a cycle from a long time ago that helps frame this up. But really, for me, business and entrepreneurship almost broke me. I'm going to talk through that process a little bit, but more importantly, I want to help you answer the question, is it for you? And the honest answer is it depends. But here's what I promise about it is you're going to get something out of this discussion and out of entrepreneurship that maybe you didn't expect, probably not the reason you would pursue it in the first place. The cycle I referenced is a cycle from a long time ago. And I don't think it was to reference entrepreneurship, but I think entrepreneurship is a great accelerator of that cycle. And the cycle is that suffering creates endurance, endurance creates character, and character creates hope. And then it starts all over again. And there's a couple of different phases to the cycle of growth, really. But everything runs through this cycle. And again, I think entrepreneurship accelerates the cycle. And I think that's a good thing. So it might not be why you wanted to pursue or why you want to pursue entrepreneurship in the first place. You get way more out of it than some of those material things you might have intended. A lot of us think entrepreneurship is about an easy lifestyle, a perfect lifestyle, things, freedom, maybe passive income. You know, it's for people that want to have security instead of a W-2. Some of those things you can get, but it's not without work, right? What it actually is entrepreneurship creates a lot of uncertainty, a lot of sleepless nights, maybe payroll pressure, decisions with no clear answer. You know, sometimes feeling lonely like a lone wolf, carrying weight that other people don't see. And the challenge for you is, are you afraid of that adversity? And if you are, maybe entrepreneurship is not for you. If you want someone else to solve all your problems, you probably shouldn't do it. If you can't handle failure, don't do it. Growth makes you uncomfortable, don't do it. But all those things are reasons you really probably should pursue entrepreneurship. Whether you're an entrepreneur, want to be an entrepreneur or not, here is the mandate though. In your vocation, in your career, here is the mandate. You need to either be the leader or be the employee that works for a leader where growth and becoming the best version of yourself is absolutely mandatory. If you're in an environment that doesn't demand your growth, first of all, you just need to grow anyway. And if you're in a place where that stifles your growth or tries to hold you back, you need to change your environment. You need to change that. So whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you know, I think small companies, Midwest Ohio, they're the best places in the world to work. And I'm so passionate about it. I'm so passionate about our roots in our area, starting from the agricultural upbringing that we had years ago and evolving into entrepreneurship in many different small businesses. I'm so proud of the area we're from for that reason. And if you're not sure you're an entrepreneur, find a leader, find a company who develops people and allows you to grow and become the best version of yourself. The path is flexible, but the mandate is not. You need to work for a company that's growing and willing to invest in your growth. So I'm going to talk about this cycle, and I'm going to talk about it within two phases. There's kind of phase one when we're thinking about business, thinking about entrepreneurship, and there's phase two where it will change, and I'll talk about that. For me, the phase one, kind of the beginner cycle, was, January 2nd, 2013, I kind of woke up. We had just had our first child shortly before that, and the dream wasn't to build this company like has shaped to today, but it's really just help Marsha get home from her job and be home with the kids. So small dream, but a clear purpose. And that gave me enough courage to act. So you need to have clarity of what you want. And maybe you're there right now. Maybe your ideas are swirling in your head. Maybe you want to start a small business. You're afraid to pull the trigger for various reasons. A career or a job or work for a company where they have these golden handcuffs on you and you're not allowed. You just feel like you can't get away and you can't walk away from that security. But the dream doesn't have to be big, but it has to be yours, and it has to be something more than money. But the starting point is having a bigger purpose, a bigger why. That's ultimately going to get you through the next phase of the next part of the cycle, which is the adversity. So for me, this adversity, I'll tell the story of just real estate. I'm not going to talk through it a lot. For me, the hardest deal I ever bought was probably the smallest deal, but it was my first deal because I had so much fear, so much confusion, so much uncertainty around that deal. As I've said many times, Mark Twain says it, but I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened. I love that quote because it was so applicable to me, and maybe that applies to you. 97% or more of the fears that I had in my head never materialized. That's why I hesitated for so long, but once I did it, I went, relatively fast afterwards. Like, what are the fears that are holding you back? Like, I love the phrase fear, regret, not failure. But the biggest failure is not becoming the best version of yourself. The question for you is, will your fears prevent you from becoming who you are meant to be? From a professional, from a vocational perspective, are your fears holding you back where you're not going to give yourself the opportunity to become the best version of yourself? That's the fear. That's the regret that I don't want you to have, and why I'm doing this discussion, why I do this show in the first place. So after we talk about the adversity that you have, we talk about having endurance through that adversity. So for me, it was, okay, we pulled the trigger, but now one step at a time, one more rental property at a time, one more deal at a time, one more hire at a time to invest in growth, whatever that is for you. What is the next step? You're going to learn through that. You're going to fail. You're going to adjust. You're going to grow. And we had a lot of adversity, a lot of setbacks where we had to endure. We had to get through it. You know, at one point, Marcia said she did a lot of legwork in our business early on. People don't know that. They think I'm that person. I was the idea guy. She was the person that got things done. But at one point she said, I didn't sign up for this. And we were at a crossroads and we really needed to decide what we wanted to do. But fortunately, we decided to move forward. We just shifted strategy a little bit. We said, okay, we're going to go after this. We're going to do it together. And we move forward. So the question for you is, first, you're going to face adversity and you need to endure through those challenges, those setbacks, and you need to keep going. And you might need to shift strategies, but you need to endure. You need to keep going. Because what that does, the adversity and the endurance, what that does is it's ultimately building your character. See, so challenges, adversity, setbacks, those are all reasons for you to grow, and they are designed to help you grow, in my opinion. By 2021, we felt like we were prepared, we were in a better spot, and we were able to walk away. Not only was she able to walk away from her job a couple years before, but I was able to walk away from my corporate career. And that was 8 years of adversity, setbacks, but we endured through that. Now, with that being said, since then, we've had more adversity, more setbacks, more failures, and we've endured through that as well. And it's all been worth it. And the question that I started to ask myself at that time in 2021 is, what will I wish I had done today 5 years from now? And I think if I knew of all the challenges we had, that would have scared me. And would have I done them? I don't know, but that's the question we have to ask ourselves today still, as we're thinking about not just do we pursue entrepreneurship, do we pursue the next phase of our business growth? Do we pursue buying that other company? Do we pursue hiring that critical role in our organization that's going to be expensive, but a major investment in a person we can have an impact on? The question is, what will you wish you had done today 5 years from now? That's the question that we have to ask. And don't think about what we will have in 5 years, but think about who you will become in 5 years because of that. And if you don't do it, the fear of regret if you don't take that action. So that's the cycle, and that's kind of how we think about it from a phase one entrepreneurship. And what I mean by that is that's when we're dreaming of something like a material thing or a worldly outcome that we're pursuing. But the shift to phase two, it's the same cycle, but we don't talk about this, but the dream becomes, we start out chasing income, freedom, Marcia being home for me, or flexibility, all these things. We achieved some of those things, and we even paused for a little while. We said, hey, let's just try to take this passive approach to our career, our profession, and try to live this lifestyle thing. But something was missing. That wasn't for us. Maybe that's for some people. It wasn't for us. And honestly, if you pursue entrepreneurship, if you're able to get to a point and build a business, you're probably not going to do that. But a dream, the goal shifted from the outcomes we wanted to growth itself. And that's what we need to be pursuing. James Allen, in the book, As a Man Thinketh, he says, dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Our early dreams, maybe some of them materialized, but they weren't fulfilling. They weren't what we were really looking for, even though we didn't know that at the time. But the mature dream, the growth cycle, is to pursue becoming the best version of yourself. And more importantly, as a leader, is to pursue developing people in your organization, your contractors, your peers, your vendors, whoever is in your ecosystem, and help them become the best version of themselves. That is the goal. That's the goal in phase two that I want to talk about. We're no longer running from a past life or the things that we lack or don't have, but we're running towards growth. You seek adversity now. We're looking for adversity. I told some team members, I'm okay with you suffering. You're going to suffer. This is going to be hard. I don't want a company that promises easy things and lacks adversity and lacks setbacks and lacks challenges, absolutely, I do not want that. Like, this is going to be hard. We are going to suffer through this. But on the other side of this, we're going to look back and we're going to say, I grew so much during that time period. As a company, we grew, our relationships grew through that adversity, because we had resilience and we grew in our character and so many other things. But you must apply value and help your organization, your team apply value to your setbacks and to your sufferings. And this is true for business and other areas of life. Is, when we think about our past and we have regret and resentment, it's because we think those were only bad and there was not good that came out of it. Most of the time, hopefully, as we connect the dots backwards, we can see the value in that. But the most important thing is, if we don't see value in our past setbacks and regrets and suffering, and we hold resentment, well, when we don't see value is when we end up holding resentment, I should say. So what's important here is the message: see value in everything. Even if you don't understand what the value was for you, trust that you went through that for a reason, and there was value in that for you or for someone. It was for the greater good. So see value in those setbacks. I think that's so important. And that's what this cycle says, is adversity creates resilience, which creates character. And that's value, right? So the key difference there between phase one and phase two is, phase one, you're looking for a kind of a worldly outcome and you encounter suffering and you grow through it, which is good. But phase two is you're pursuing adversity. You're pursuing setbacks. You're pursuing challenges because you'll need the resilience, which will build a character. So you're getting the same outcome in character growth from both phases I'm talking about here. It's the same cycle, but it's a different starting point. And when you start in phase two, where you're pursuing growth, you will endure better through that process, because while you're in it, you'll recognize that you're growing versus after the fact. That's my opinion of the key difference. The next thing I want to talk about is, okay, we can go through this, we can pursue entrepreneurship, we can pursue life, whatever you want to talk about, but don't do this alone, because entrepreneurship is very hard. Leadership, business, they're very hard. And they can be lonely. There's no one else that really understands the challenges and the struggles that you have within your organization. A lot of times there's uncertainties and pressures and sleepless nights, like I talked about. And carrying it alone is a choice that you can make, but it's the wrong one. There's a story, I've told it before, but there was a man that knew exactly where he wanted to go. He was paralyzed, broken, but he knew where he wanted to go, but he could not get there. And he physically couldn't get there. And the story is the story of the paralytic. And he had 4 friends that helped him get where he wanted to go. And those four people changed everything for him. And you're the same as the paralytic, is that, you need to find the 4 people that you need. Like, that is my mandate. My whole message is find the 4 people you need, because when you're pursuing entrepreneurship, life, faith, parenting, relationships alone, you are going to struggle and you're going to feel lonely. There's all kinds of challenges with, our children, or this personality or that personality. I've had some discussions recently with friends about that. Don't do this alone. Find the 4 people you need that can help you. And that you should apply this in business for sure, but in every single area of life. It is the most important thing that I think changes everything. It'll help solve all these other problems and challenges and adversity that we were talking about, because now you have people carrying you along the way. And by the way, you're going to carry them. So start that process. You need them. 10 years in, you'll still need them. If you're just starting entrepreneurship or thinking about it and you don't know your why, you need them. They can help you through that process. They can help you through all this. Find the 4 people you need. And by the way, if you're succeeding, you still need them, but also they need you, which is really neat, because that's fulfilling. You guys can celebrate together and work through challenges together. How do you do this, by the way, is, you talk how things are going. They'll help you see your blind spots and vice versa. You'll celebrate wins together. And they're going to understand what you've gone through because they've been there, or vice versa. But the most important thing is these 4 people, this is where real, deep, authentic relationships are, is they're helping you in every area of life, including your business, become the best version of yourself. And that's the whole point, right? Iron sharpens iron isn't a phrase it is truth. You should meet weekly or bi-weekly, no exceptions, share everything. If you want to go look into this more, one thing that is life-changing, go to app.thepurposematrix.com. There's a whole framework there for free, no subscriptions, anything. And you can see the whole process. It'll even give you an email to help invite those 4 people if you want. Or email us, by the way. We also have a quarterly business leader network. We're partnering with Aileron in September, bringing them in. They're going to be talking to well over 50 business owners and leaders in the area. So email us info@moellerre.com if you want to hear more about that. But the truth is, every great leader, every great entrepreneur has these 4 people. There's different masterminds, different networks, different board members, whatever it might be, but they have these people. And every entrepreneur who ultimately probably went broke or broke themselves, they didn't have these people, right? If you want a broken business, then don't do that. But if you want a fulfilling, full, whole life, go find these 4 people. Don't be the lone wolf. That's not a strength. Independence is not the goal. You are dependent. And it's okay to recognize that. If you're afraid of adversity, entrepreneurship isn't going to fix that, but it will expose it. And that maybe is what you need. And just the whole message here, the whole point of this discussion is go into this eyes wide open, recognizing what the real goal is. It's not the phase 1 goal of a dream and material and worldly things. It's the phase 2 goal I talked about. The goal is growth itself. And if you're already in it and struggling, maybe you're somewhere in the middle of the cycle, that's where you really need those 4 people. But don't quit before the character part, before you've endured through the sufferings and grown in character, because that's the point of it all. So this is all from the Apostle Paul, who talks about this, and it's Romans chapter 5. Not only that, but we even boast of our afflictions, knowing that affliction produces endurance. Endurance produces character, and proven character and hope does not disappoint. And that's what we're really pursuing. But it's ultimately, it goes on to talk about it more. But I encourage you to check it out, Romans 5, verse 3, and it talks about more in the hope and what the hope is in. But I just encourage you to think about this process, because it's a cycle. And I talked about it in the context of entrepreneurship in phase 1 and phase 2, but it's a cycle. It continues and continues and continues. And you're going to continue to have afflictions and need endurance and grow in character and grow in hope. That it is a cycle. It's an entrepreneurship cycle. It's a leadership cycle. It's a life cycle, and it is truth. I want to tell a story about how we need to pursue challenges and adversity. So we were recently with our family in Glacier National Park. Absolutely beautiful, by the way. Highly recommend. And if you ask the kids, there was a lot of really cool memories, the animals, bears, and wild horses, and some really neat things. And then they complain about the hikes, like, oh, mom and dad make us go on these hikes. They'll complain about it. But this one hike we did, Hidden Lake from Logan's Pass, the top, after you go up the Sun Road, absolutely just stunning, beautiful. But we were there in early July here, and there was still snow covered on the top. So Marcia, the kids, and I were slipping, falling, on the snow, kind of icy, packed down. And we come to a fork where we can go, kind of starting with a path around and continues to be on snow, or there's a dry ridge line. We're like, oh, that looks like it'll be easy. It will go up a slow ascent, and then we'll be able to kind of cruise in. Of course, we picked the easy path first. We're cruising up this ridge line. We're like, okay, we're getting up there, and we got to get down. And then it gets really steep down, much steeper than we thought, and on snow. So we're just sitting there with our 5 kids, or 6-year-old or 8-year-old, all of us. What are we going to do here? There's some pictures and some videos and some awkward positions and all kinds of things, falling all over the place, you name it. But the highlight was our 8-year-old son is walking up the snow now to get to a point where he can slide down, and he's walking up, and we're like, just go, buddy. I have it on video. It's fantastic. He slips on his butt, starts sliding down the hill uncontrollably. He's sliding out of control, hits a bump where there's kind of a pass. My other daughter tries to stop him, to help him and catch him. He flies by, does a couple tumbles. He sticks the landing, and we're like, you okay, buddy? And he holds his hand up, and he's just laughing about it. But the message is, first of all, we picked the easy path, and it actually got harder. And the question for you is, if you're in a career, or you're at a company, or you're just thinking about entrepreneurship or leadership, and you're like, well, that's going to be hard, that's going to be challenging. What I would say is that's exactly the reason you need to go do it. You need to pick the hard path. You need to do the hard thing because of this cycle, because it will help you grow. It will create adversity. It will create challenges. It will create setbacks. Absolutely. Guarantee it. Promise. It will also you will need to have resilience to get through that and it will create character and hope. And that's the whole point. We deserved what we got. We deserved to struggle, slip, fall because we picked the easy path. And afterwards, we're like, geez, I talk about this, and we still did it. So we deserved it. But we also have a great story about it. And as much as the kids complained about the hikes and everything else, that's the story they remember because we were laughing our tails off. It was fantastic. And entrepreneurship is just another version of that. So what entrepreneurship has given me is what I hope it will give you. It's character that I've grown in that I didn't have then. I don't have it figured out. I'm not saying that. More courage. I've had to have more courage than I thought I'd have. I've grown in faith because of that and because of the 4 people that I've needed in my life that have helped me. And it's given me a peace, not like the peace of an easy life, but the peace of a whole life. Peace is a soft word, but that's not the goal. Peace is wholeness and fullness, and that's real peace. And to have real peace, you have to actually create situations where you're creating adversity for yourself to grow, because you can look back at that and say, I've really grown from this. So for me, so far from perfect, definitely haven't figured it all out, but still growing and still learning and choosing things because it will be challenging. I'm not trying to fail on purpose, but knowing that I'm putting value in those setbacks and challenges. So the final questions for you: is entrepreneurship for you, or are you choosing the easy path? And if you choose the easy path and not the hard path, are you going to live with regret? That's the fear I have for people, is you're not going to be at peace, but you're going to live with regret because you didn't go after your goals and your dreams. And only you can answer that yourself. But to me, it's affliction creates endurance, creates character, creates hope. That's the game. I think entrepreneurship is so neat because it accelerates that. And, if you need help getting there, I just strongly encourage you, find the 4 people you need, whatever phase you're in, whether that's thinking about it to very mature in entrepreneurship, business, or leadership, whatever it is for you. And the question is, are you in or not? For the Purpose Matrix, signing off.